Hello everybody, I am Zesty Fester and welcome back to my thoughts on some bullshit. So in today's video, we are going to be ranking the Friday the 13th franchise. Again, yes, my last video was ranking the Friday the 13th franchise, but we're going to be ranking them by their Rotten Tomatoes scores today. And we are going to be comparing where Rotten Tomatoes has a certain movie to where I have it, and to see how absolutely stupid some of these scores are. Pretty simple idea. Maybe we'll look at some of the reviews, and yeah, let's get this shit. Okay, Rotten Tomatoes has Friday the 13th Part 3 at the very bottom of their list at number 12, which is wild to me. I've always thought that was a very generally liked movie, but apparently not. Apparently a lot of people think it's some fucking boo-boo. I have it at number 6. They have it at number 12. My number 12 is the original, and I can already tell you me and Rotten Tomatoes are going to be thinking very differently on that. That aside, it has a 14% tomato score and a 42% audience score. And for most of these, the audience score is definitely going to be bigger than the actual tomato score itself, which makes sense because Rotten Tomatoes usually has some bum-ass scores for some good-ass movies. So I'm expecting most of these to be pretty low, even the better ones in the franchise. Let's take a look at a couple of these reviews and see what some of these dumb-ass critics are saying. So one of the top reviews is, "The novelty wears off, and what remains is now a familiar spectacle of nice, dumb kids being lopped, chopped, and perforated." This, I can agree with this one. If you watch all of the Friday the 13th movies in succession, or just like a lot of slasher movies in succession in general, it's gonna get really tiring. But it's a slasher movie. You go into it expecting a slasher, and that's exactly what you get. So if you're not in the mood for a slasher, or if you don't like them, then don't watch it. Or of course the novelty is gonna wear off. Okay, that one was dumb. I'm already pissed off. On to the next one. Their number 11 is Friday the 13th. Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. This one's not shocking. I feel like Jason Takes Manhattan is pretty low for a lot of people. This is, along with Part 5, one of the more cult ones in the franchise, where there is like a good amount of people who genuinely love it, but the majority consensus, I feel, is pretty negative for this one, and I can agree. It's number 11 for them, and it's number 10 for me, so not too far off, but I'm still curious to see some of the reviews on this, John. It has an 11% tomato score and a 26% audience score, but let's see some of these reviews. Okay, well, that's unexpected. The top review, the very first one you see, "For what it's worth," in parentheses, very little, "probably the best in the series." Now you know this guy has great taste. This guy says, "It's hard to decide what's worse, everything before Jason gets to Manhattan or everything after." Now this one's actually pretty interesting because I've never thought about it. I think that definitely everything before he gets to Manhattan, because even though once he gets to Manhattan, it's a very short amount of time, nothing too crazy happens, just like the spectacle of Jason Voorhees being in New York City, that is cool as shit. And before that, he's just on a boat, and that's not very interesting, to me at least. So I would say everything after he gets to Manhattan is just a tiny bit better. Okay, well, most of the reviews on this one I can agree with because they have it low and so do I, so I can't hate that much. Okay, number 10 for them is going to be, of course, Jason Goes to Hell. Most people were expecting that. My number 10 was Part 8, like I said before. I have Jason Goes to Hell at my number 3. See, this one I can't be too surprised at, though, because I know most people hate this movie. I absolutely love it. I will defend it till the end of time. But, you know, let's see some dumb shit they have to say about it. Okay, it's sitting at a 15% tomato score and a 23% audience score. That makes sense. Given the dregs of this franchise, it's hard to call this one an embarrassment, but it does show how far the franchise fell over its tenure. See, now this one is where I gotta have some arguments, because Jason Goes to Hell is the 9th installment in the franchise, and of course by the 9th installment, you're probably gonna be pretty far from where you started off. If you're just recycling the same movie from the first couple over and over again, nobody's gonna like it, so you gotta try something different, and that's exactly what this movie did. Every movie leading up to this technically tried something different. You got Part 6 brought in Zombie Jason, Part 7 brought in fucking Fake Carrie, Part 8 he was in Manhattan, and now this one, you gotta try something different, or else the franchise is just gonna be a copy-paste recycle. And now don't get me wrong, a lot of it is copy-paste recycle, even in these more different sequels, but at least the central plots themselves, some of the themes, some of the ideas, like, you know, Jason swapping bodies and stuff, at least that's different. When it comes to things like the kills and, you know, classic Friday the 13th and, just slasher tropes in general, yeah, it's mostly the same in this movie. But again, like I said before, it's a slasher movie. You know, things like that is what you're gonna have to expect. But yeah, just that one review alone already has me yapping, so I'm just going to move on to the next one. Coming in at number 9 for Rotten Tomatoes is going to be Friday the 13th Part 5, The New Beginning. I had Friday the 13th Part 5 at 11, so much lower. And also my number 9 was Jason X, which shockingly we haven't seen on the list so far. I was definitely expecting to see this movie a lot lower than it is, but whatever, Rotten Tomatoes is whack as shit, everybody knows that. Part 5 has a 16% tomato score and a 26% audience score. So the audience score is essentially the same as Jason Goes to Hell, which is kind of shocking. Okay, somebody in the review said that it was a bold gamble to abandon Jason Voorhees for this sequel, and it's a gamble that it didn't pay off in any way, shape, or form. Now, I had this movie pretty low. This is absolutely not one of my favorites, but the thing is, you don't find out that it's not actually Jason until the very end of the movie. For an average audience member, this movie is going to be exactly the same as any of the movies before it. It's just an average slasher with essentially Jason, except for the very end. So your viewing experience is going to be damn near identical to the ones before it. The only things that make this movie so much different than the ones that came before it is the fact that it's a lot dirtier and raunchier, and it has a lot more gore and nudity and things like that. And that's why I have it so low, because I'm not into my Friday the 13th movie feeling like a porno. But other than that, it is literally just a Jason movie, and you don't find out that it's not technically Jason until the end, so your viewing experience is going to be exactly the same. So people saying that the fact that it's not Jason made it not pay off in any way is kind of stupid to me, because your viewing experience is going to be exactly the same. It's just a slasher. Coming in at number 8 for Rotten Tomatoes is Jason X. Now, for a franchise with 12 movies, number 8 isn't that high, but for Jason X, that is pretty high. It has a 20% Rotten Tomatoes score and then a 25 for the audience score, which in the mid-20s seems to be a very average score for most of this franchise, but whatever. 20% for the Rotten Tomatoes score is pretty shocking for Jason X. My number 8 was Part 7, which I have a feeling we're going to be seeing pretty high on this list. And I had Jason X right under it at number 9. Right here, one of the reviews says this movie conjures up more giggles. Who says giggles? This movie conjures up more giggles than scares if you make it through the first 15 minutes. And yeah, this is like, you know, if you are a horror fan who's into movies like any of the movies like in the Full Moon catalog, or if you're into movies like Frankenhooker or Basket Case, this is the kind of movie for you. It's super schlocky, it's super dumb, it makes no sense, and like this review says, it's a lot more funny at times than scary. It's so bad it's good. Now, if you're coming to a Friday the 13th movie wanting to be scared, and that's your thing for this franchise, or just horror movies in general, this is not going to be the one for you. But if you're a horror fan that just likes to sit back, have a good time, and just laugh at a so bad it's good Jason movie, then this is the perfect one for you. See, I have this one pretty low on my list, but I don't hate it whatsoever. I just can't objectively put it above some of the more better movies in this franchise, but it's still a fun movie to watch. It's super rewatchable. It's, you know, it's just a classic case of so bad it's good. And if that's your thing, great. If not, then don't fucking watch the Joan. They have part what? Where? Jesus Christ, Lord have mercy. Jesus Almighty! Okay, so they have part 4, which is my number 1. At number 7, sandwiched in between Jason X and the remake. Are you fucking kidding me? Part 4? Good lord, I'm interested to get into this and see some of the reviews. Okay, so the tomato score is a 25. The audience score for this one is a 52. Okay, so most of the ones below this are mid-20s, high teens, so you could already see that the audience feels very differently about this one. Okay, this guy says, nothing groundbreaking, but many agree it does, in parentheses, slightly raise the bar for the previous 2 sequels. See, now, this movie, like all the rest in the franchise, yes, it's a slasher, you know what you're gonna get, but I don't think it just slightly raises the bar. I think it perfects the bar of a good ass slasher movie. It does everything a slasher should do at, in my opinion, the perfect extent. And for that reason, with this franchise, of course, being a slasher franchise, it's my number one. It perfects the slasher. So of course it's going to be my number one in a franchise that is a slasher. But whatever, I guess people can agree if they want to. If you hate on this movie, you're just dumb. And if you hate on this movie, you're not going to get no bitches. Okay, coming in at number 6, which I did kind of spoil in the last one, is the remake, with a 26% Rotten Tomatoes score and a 47% audience score. So let's see what this one is giving. Okay, the very first review you see is actually one that I agree with. They say, if you're a diehard Jason fan, check this one out with a popcorn and a group of friends, but if not, sit this one out. And this one I completely agree with. This is a very basic 2000s slasher horror remake. It's nothing crazy. If you were to watch this entire franchise, you could easily skip this one and not really miss out on anything. It's not a bad movie. It's just not anything too crazy, you know? I'm not beating my meat over this shit. And most people aren't, I don't think. Okay, cracking up the top 5 is going to be Friday the 13th, Part 7. I told you guys this John was going to be high, I just knew it. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 31 and an audience score of 37, so damn near neck and neck with those two. Okay, let's see what these reviews are giving. Okay, here's a review I actually agree with. I mentioned in my own ranking that I really love the character of Tina. I think she's absolutely one of the better final girls in the franchise, even her weird Carrie superpowers aside. This one says, the anxieties suffered by Tina throughout the film are well thought out by the franchise, typically one-dimensional standards. And that's pretty much my point exactly. She is one of the less super bland, one-dimensional, you know, classic Friday the 13th teens. This girl went through a very traumatic experience when she was younger, and you could still see her living through that through her late teens or adulthood or however old she is in this movie. And obviously this isn't some kind of like 5-star masterpiece. I don't even think this is like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 levels of how someone deals with trauma. But for Friday the 13th, this is pretty good character writing. Yeah, obviously the fact that she has superpowers is cool as shit, but the fact that she isn't like a super bland cardboard one-dimensional character, that's also cool as shit. But yeah, other than that, honestly, most of these reviews I pretty much agree with. Most of them are just talking about how really basic and boring the movie is, aside from the few things they added to make it fresh, like the telekinetic powers and how cool Jason looks, yada yada yada. Whatever. So this one I actually mostly agree with. I just don't know why it's this high up on the list. There's so many other ones, like Part 4, hello, should be way higher. Should be above this one. Coming in at number 4 is going to be Friday the 13th Part 2. This is actually one I can also agree with. I have Part 2 a bit higher than this. I have Part 2 at my number 2. They have it at their number 4. At my number 4 is Part 6, which we have yet to see. I'm assuming it's probably going to be the second most rated in the franchise. But as for Part 2, it has a 36% tomato score and a 49% audience score. I'm not going to lie, I was expecting the audience score to be a bit higher. This one says, while Part 2 doesn't do much to add anything new to the story, it does give us Jason, and to be honest, that's enough for me. This guy knows what he's talking about. This movie is not too drastically different from the first one, except for the fact it has Jason. Yes, I know that's exactly what this review just said, but the thing is, the fact that Jason's the killer in this movie, and nothing against Pamela Voorhees, she's like the best part of the original, but the fact that Jason is the killer in this one makes it 10 times better than the original. Also, I think the fact that Jason is like a bit more underdeveloped in this movie, like he's not some hulking brute. It's almost like Jason's like, maybe he's like a teenager in this iteration, I'm not sure, but the fact that he's a bit underdeveloped and not as strong makes it even better because the final girl can put up even more of a battle, which makes it more entertaining. When the main killer is a big hulking brute where literally nobody stands a chance, maybe that could be cool, but it makes it less fun, you know? I want to see some battles, I want to see some action, I want to see some final girls kicking ass. And in this movie, the fact that Jason isn't as strong gives the final girl more time to shine. You know, she beats his ass, she bashes a chair over him, she tries to chainsaw him down. She's just cool as shit, and this movie is cool as shit, and I love it, and I agree with whoever laid down this review. Okay, coming in at Rotten Tomatoes number 3 is going to be Freddy vs. Jason. This one I am actually shocked to see so high. It has a 42% score with a 50% audience score. I have Freddy vs. Jason at number 5. I do really love love this movie. At my number 3 is Jason Goes to Hell, which of course me and Rotten Tomatoes think very differently about. Okay, let's check out some of the reviews. So this is a bit more of a long one, but this guy says, for all its cheesy moments, and there were plenty, yeah, I enjoyed the slasher flick. Watching these two icons tear down was something every horror fan needed. Agreed. It's just a shame the plans to bring in Ash from Evil Dead and Pinhead from Hellraiser didn't work out. And yeah, I absolutely agree with that. It's just a good ass slasher where two absolutely iconic monsters throw down, and while I completely disagree with the direction of Jason, other than that, I think this is a super enjoyable movie. And like this guy said at the end of his review, there were plans in sequels to bring in Pinhead and Ash from Evil Dead, and because no one could decide who was gonna win the damn battle, everyone wanted their character to win. It never came to light. There is actually a lot more to it, which I'm thinking of making a separate video on its own about, talking about the different sequel possibilities for Jason Goes to Hell, so keep an eye out for that, probably in the more distant future. But still, what we got was cool as hell. I mean, when do things like that happen? We have Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees fighting in the same movie. Things like that rarely happen. What else we got? We got like fucking King Kong and Godzilla, or Alien and Predator, and you know, while those two are cool, classic horror slasher villains fighting in the same movie, you just don't really see it. So you gotta appreciate it for what it is. And coming in at number 2 is Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Yeah, I told you guys this one was gonna be high. Rightfully so, though. This is a great movie. It has a 56% on Rotten Tomatoes score and a 54% audience score. Damn, not gonna lie, I thought that audience score would be much higher. This is like the one in the franchise that I see people have at their number 1 the most, if it's not the original. For me, I have this movie at number 4, and at my number 2 is number 2. The murderous Jason is back in the latest chapter of the most offensive film series in history, unless Burt Reynolds wants to make 3 more Smokey and the Bandit pictures real quick. What? Whoever wrote this review must be absolutely senile. Like, unless this is the only horror franchise or franchise in general this guy has ever seen, there's no way in hell this is the most offensive franchise in film history. Unless you're like 89 years old and an absolute boomer, you're not gonna be taking offense to this shit. It's just a slasher franchise, come on. Another guy said even bringing back Jason can't salvage this mess. What the fuck are people talking about? Bringing back Jason is what salvaged the mess. Look at Part 5. Okay, most of these reviews are genuinely dumb as shit, so I'm just gonna move on to number 1. And at number 1, where me and Rotten Tomatoes disagree the most, honestly where me and most people disagree the most, but that's fine. Their number 1 is of course the original Friday the 13th, where I had the original Friday the 13th at number 12, and my number 1 was Part 4. They had Part 4 at like number 7. Me and Rotten Tomatoes disagree a lot. But anyways, this movie has a 68% Rotten Tomatoes score and a 60% audience score, so let's check this out. This guy says, while it's no crowning achievement in filmmaking, Friday the 13th does set the stage for 80s horror very nicely. And see, while, yeah, I don't really like this movie very much, like I said in my ranking, I respect it and I absolutely agree. Horror wouldn't be where it is today without this movie. There are many movies that copied this one, many movies that straight up stole the entire plot of this movie, but they did it better. But you still gotta appreciate this movie, because without this, you wouldn't have those better movies. So for that, I give it up to this movie. The young cast, simple premise, and unexpected ending more than solidifies this film's status as an iconic slasher. And I mean, yeah, I can agree with that too. It's a very, very simple premise with an unexpected ending and a young cast. I mean, those are just facts. It just sucks that the movie is boring as shit. And like he says, the unexpected ending, that's like the only good thing about it, is the crazy ass unexpected ending. The only redeeming qualities for this movie for me is the ending, which is like the only last 15-20 minutes, and Bessie Palmer's performance. Once we actually do get her in full killer mode, she gives like one of, if not the best performances in the entire franchise. It just sucks you gotta wean through like 40 minutes of absolute boringness just to get to it. Okay, you guys, that was just a nice little Joan I wanted to make after my ranking. Something I'm going to do from now on when I do franchise rankings is I'm going to be doing a Rotten Tomatoes ranking right after, just so I could see some other perspectives, just so I could see how absolutely dumb Rotten Tomatoes is. So that's going to be a normal thing for this channel. Trust me, I do have a lot more planned for this channel than just rankings, but since we're just getting started again, I wanted to just start off with the basics and move on. I do have some cool videos planned for after this. We are done with Jason for now, And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please check out my Instagram and my TikTok, and like and subscribe. Bye.